Welcome back everyone, my name is Dustin and I didn't have time to put out the last devlog before the game jam deadline. However, I would like to talk about the game jam and in the experience that I had. Okay, so our game didn't place, but the lessons learned were invaluable, along with some really great feedback on how to improve the game and when doing the gameplay programming. As you guys know, we've been creating this engine from scratch, and there are some things that we definitely have neglected, and one of those things would be game mechanics. Because we're working on the engine, we really haven't been focusing on games themselves. Like, we haven't even made a game yet in the engine where we are in the video series. And from what I see, programming the engine compared to programming a game is completely different. Gameplay programming is more about the feel of the mechanics of the game. How does the user feel when they use the controls and things like that? The game we submitted also started out too difficult, and most people had a hard time beating the first level. There were a total of 4 levels, and some people were able to beat it. However, the majority found the mechanics too hard to get used to. Also, the controls were uncomfortable for most. So based on an Xbox style controller, I used the A button for jumping, the X button to charge the beam throwing power, the right shoulder for running, and the D-pad for left and right movement. This configuration made it hard for people to get used to. Because I was programming it and using it the whole time, I got used to the way it worked and was able to beat the game. I also made the levels, so I knew where all the danger was. So what I should have done is got some other people to try out the game way earlier to give me some feedback on the feel and the difficulty of the game. Some good feedback was to use the left analog stick for the player movement. Because the values are analog, we can control the speed of the player based on the analog values. So if the player is creeping up, they can just slightly push the analog stick. And this would also free up having to push the right shoulder button to run. And it is more intuitive that way. Another button change would have been to move the charge button from to one of the trigger analog buttons. And that could also control how fast we charge because we use the analog value there. Away from the controls, there were also some issues with the beanstalk collider itself. In places where the user needs to, or the player needs to scale the wall, if you didn't throw it and jump the right way, you would get stuck in the beanstalk and fall to the bottom, sometimes to the death of the player. This was really frustrating for most people. A fix for that would be, if the user is jumping up, to be able to go through the beanstalks and then stop the player from going through the beanstalks if the player is on the way down. The double jump was also a little bit finicky and did not work at some times, especially if the user thought it was going to work and then they couldn't make the jump, they would just fall. That definitely needs to be fixed. I was also finding lots of features that the engine was missing and some more bugs. So there's lots of work to do from here on out. All in all, this was a wonderful experience, and I'm definitely going to be doing more jams in the future. So that is it for this year's Lojam devlog, and I will be going back to the engine programming starting next week. So look for those videos. I actually already have some stuff prepped up, and we're going to start to create our first game in the engine. That's right. So the engine is basically ready. We can actually start making a game. Maybe you guys, if you're already watching the engine series and you're up to date, try to make a game in it already. See what you can do. Alright, take it easy, and I'll see you next time.